Oh, welcome, everybody, to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. It's a bit past 3 p.m. on the East Coast, and boy, I have an interesting chat today. People are talking so much about the presidential elections and trying to get ballot access in the presidential elections and battles with the Republicans and Democrats, the presidential elections. And while that is important, don't get me wrong, it totally is important, there's also battles like this going on all over the country at the local level too, not just at the presidential level, Congress, city council, county executive, mayor, all over the place. This is happening everywhere. And I want to talk today with a gentleman right now who's having a similar problem in the great state of Oregon, getting kicked off the ballot, this time not by, everyone's talking about the Democrats beating up on Bobby Kennedy, but there's more. They beat up on everybody. Here's Republicans now beating up on Libertarians. I'm going to bring in the chair of the Libertarian Party of Oregon, Matt Rowe. How are you, sir?
Good. It's Rowe, but don't worry.
Oh, is it Rowe? I'm sorry. I thought like Mike Rowe. I thought it was the same Rowe. Sorry, Mike. Matt
90% of people who spell it that way say it that way. So I say either when we got off the boat, we didn't know how to talk, or we didn't know how to write. One or the other.
One or the other. Okay, either way, good. So it's fine. It's not Rowe. It's Rowe. I love it, Mr. Rowe. Tell me what is going on in your race. I mean, it's a congressional race. Is that right?
That's right. It's the 5th congressional district, which when we think competitive elections, we don't normally think Oregon. We think, other areas. But of course, with gerrymandered districts such as they are, there are competitive races, even in the bluest of states. And in the 5th district, after recomposition, it is one of the closest in the nation. And Lori DeReamer, who's a former colleague of mine, because we served as mayors together in Oregon. I was the mayor of Coke Hill. She was the mayor of Happy Valley. For those who don't know small towns in Oregon. Happy
Valley sounds amazing. I'm just saying, Happy Valley does sound good.
Well, it reminds me of, it always reminded me of Mickey and the Beanstalk. Remember, because that's where they are, is at Happy Valley.
Right. Yes, that's right.
So I'd always joke with her about that when we were on better terms back when we were jovial colleagues. But she had started initially sort of like as a liberal Republican, and then has become like a MAGA kind of Republican because of the convenience of it. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing MAGA Republicans. But regardless. So she spent about $10 million getting elected to that seat by less than 2 percentage points. By less than 2 percentage points in 2022 against a very weak Democratic opponent who beat the incumbent in the primary in a very divisive primary between a supposed moderate in Kurt Schrader and a very progressive Democrat.
So she had a serious primary.
Yeah. Yes. The Democrats did last time.
Got it.
And it was an open seat, so every Republican opportunist was seeking the open seat that could be competitive.
Got it.
Lori came out on top with the big money, McCarthy money, NRCC money, and basically after it was all over, it's all been downhill from there. It was a pretty strong campaign she ran, but since she took office, she's been a McCarthy Republican to the core, supporting.
So hold on, I want to cover this. Now, she's now this Republican. The Democrats running against her in this race. This is this year, right?
Yes.
And in this race now, the Democrat is close to beating her. It's a close race, or no?
Absolutely, because the Democratic opponent is the one person who's ever beaten Lori in an election, Janelle Bynum. She beat her twice. For the state legislature, and this is like clearly almost a personal thing for Lori at this point, I'm sure. But she's voted to give billions in subsidies to big tech, just as they announced this week massive layoffs of Oregonians.
Well, you have to reward them for that bad behavior.
Absolutely right. As long as the campaign contributions keep flowing in. So
let me touch this piece and hold on.
I apologize.
I already get what kind of candidates they are. The question I'm asking you is, in the past, have the Libertarians run a candidate in this district in the past, or this is a newly made district?
It's everything was reconstituted because we got an additional congressional district. So instead of having, basically very heavy D districts and then one R district, now it's, several D districts, one R district, and one swing district. And
Okay,
I
so
was going to say, yes.
why did you guys decide to run? I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just curious. What made you decide this is the one I want to run in?
Well, I think it's because of its close composition. And the fact is, we supported Operation Warhawk removal, which you don't hear about so much anymore.
Oh, nice.
You don't hear about it as much from the national leadership. I've noticed is it seems like they're interested in accommodating Republicans as opposed to challenging them. But regardless, we took it to heart. When Lori didn't vote to stop funding what I would argue was damn near a genocide in Yemen, when she wouldn't vote to end the declaration, the military authorization for the president to basically commit war on anybody he wants because of terrorism.
Sure. The bad word.
But yeah. Wait, I'm sorry, what?
The bad word, right? We can do anything with that word.
Yes.
We can do anything.
Yes.
We just say the bad word and we can take away people's rights, send people off to war, bomb people, just use the bad word and you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we looked at that and we looked at her support for the Ukraine and unwavering support for what many of us consider a genocide in occupied Palestine and Israel, that Lori wouldn't accommodate. She wouldn't even listen to our complaints. And so how do you make politicians listen? You endanger the things they value most. Re-election.
Okay, so now you're making
that's why we're running.
Hold on. So now you're making the run. I got it. So you're making the run. So does that mean the Democrat wants you off the ballot, the Republican, both? Why? Who's trying to get you off the ballot now?
Oh, I'm sorry. The first complaint came from the Republican Party of Oregon.
They got mad.
Yeah, they got their legal counsel to basically try and say an old bylaws dispute in our affiliate from 13 years ago somehow justifies the Secretary of State invalidating all of our candidates, even though aggrieved parties within our party have tried this over the years, basically deciding if they can't have it, nobody will, and they'll try and destroy it. And this is all too familiar in Libertarian Party politics, let's be honest.
True. True. You're not wrong.
And I was going to say that they tried to utilize that dispute, which had a dicta in a court case, which if you know anything about the law, dicta means absolutely nothing. Yep. And despite losing in administrative hearings and in the courts again and again, these aggrieved libertarians now have aligned with the Republicans to basically try and sabotage our slate of nominees.
Okay, whoa, hold on. You're telling me that the Republicans said, hey, we want to get rid of all libertarians, all of them across the state, get rid of all of them. And then aggrieved libertarians jumped on board to get them off the ballot.
Yes.
Wow.
Sadly. Wow. One of them, as a matter of fact, because he claims our bylaws are illegitimate, Richard Burke, who has been a figure involved in libertarian politics for many years, he was a delegate from our state. He was approved by us. He was a regional alternate, Region 1. And he accepted our support.
Hold on. I got to ask now. I get why Republicans would want you off the ballot. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can understand it, right? We're a competition. Get us off the ballot. They only want to fight one person. They want to yell and scream. Are the libertarians who are against you, is it because they think the Republicans are right? Is it because they don't like the libertarians? What is their logic in doing this?
Their logic is they want to be proven right on an obscure bylaws dispute from 13 years ago. And to be honest, they don't like the way the party's been run over the last several years because we've become, instead of kowtowing to Republican interests and rolling over and laying down and being patted on the head as good little boys and good little girls, we've changed as a party. I mean, we are very Mises heavy in our state affiliate. I'm not directly a Mises Caucus member, but I often joke I'm Mises adjacent because, I'm for a non-interventionist foreign policy. I'm for sound currency. I'm for reducing the deficit and limited government. And on foreign policy in particular, this has been an issue of great concern to us, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East. And most state affiliates aren't in a position to do anything about it with their member of Congress. We have, again, one of the closest districts in the country. And so we felt morally compelled to step up.
So let me ask a couple questions with that. I like this concept where you're going. I'm with you. Let me move to the next step if I could. what do you think is the actual outcome in two parts? One on the ballot and two in the election. So let me first go to ballot. Are they winning? Are they losing? Are you winning? What's happening? How is the court battle going?
So as it is right now, we're not in court yet. We're in the administrative hearing process, which is part of the ballot access complaint. Yes. And so what happens is there'll be an initial decision from an administrative, I don't even know if it's an administrative judge or if it's a department appointee, but we will get a ruling on that. I would say initially, I think it looks very much in our favor because they accepted our filings and have listed them as qualified. And so if they do grant a hearing, it'll have the onus be on the complainant. There's no preemptive action on the part of the Secretary of State. What is particularly troubling, though, there's a second part here, is that another complaint came down from Richard Burke, that fella I was just talking about, who, again, gladly participated and wanted when he couldn't become a delegate without being approved by our affiliate. He filed an additional complaint claiming we violated our bylaws because our affiliate has an obscure provision where in the bylaws where it says we have to have mail-in ballot primary elections if we have the funds. That is very expensive. We do not have the funds.
Sure.
You know, and I was going to say that we held a convention. It did not make quorum. And then our bylaws state that in the absence of a primary, if there are no nominees, the board appoints. Well, we tried to hold a convention to maximize party input. We didn't make quorum.
Wait a minute. You wanted some democracy? What?
I know.
Why would you do that? This is America. We don't get democracy. Come on.
Well, the other thing is, Larry, is that the previous regime in the party, and again, this is 13 years ago this all started, they spent $250,000. This was all before I even got involved in the party.
Wow.
Burke is the only guy left from this group and a couple of his financial backers. And what also makes it particularly disgusting is Mr. Burke sits on our ethics commission for the state of Oregon as an appointee of the House Republican caucus. And yet he's openly trying to get his own party kicked off the ballot, disenfranchising 19,800 plus libertarians in the state of Oregon, claiming that he has to kill the party to save it. This is madness.
I've heard that one before.
It's madness. And so his complaint, though, is completely baseless. I don't know if it'll even be granted a hearing, but if it does, I think we will smack it down pretty decisively. In the event any of these decisions go against us, we will appeal in circuit court, which has to be in the Marion County Circuit Court, where the capital is. And given how they've tried this in the past, unofficially, and now they're doing it officially, I don't believe a judge in Marion County is going to kick us off the ballot all over the state. I don't believe it for a second.
Good. Okay, I like to hear that. That's a good thing. So we're probably going to win this thing, and we're going to keep our candidates on the ballot. Okay. The question now becomes twofold. One, can this be put to bed for good, or is this going to come up every year?
Well, Mr. Burke was on an Oregon-based podcast last Friday night saying he's going to do it every 2 years. Well, I had a feeling this was coming, though, when I took the chairmanship back in June. Our chairman had just sort of reached a point where it's like, all this drama, all this nonsense. He couldn't actually do the things he wanted to do for the party. And so we switched roles. I became chair, he became vice chair. And I had one outlook, one goal in my time as chairman before our convention next year, which is to resolve this stupid dispute.
Yes, good.
Once and for all.
Good.
And yep. I have a feeling the fact is that this time they are so sick of having to deal with this issue again and again, the courts will, if it goes to court, throw it out with prejudice.
There we go. That's good. All right, so now let's go to the actual election here, right? The election coming up here. What do you think can be the outcome for this election for the Libertarian Party? Is this going to be something where we just stop the person from being reelected, which I know is your goal, to get rid of the war hawk? Or is it going to be something more? Is there some other value to that that's going to pop up? Or are we not going to do that and it's going to be much more of a ceremonial run? What do you think is going to happen? What's your gut tell you?
Well, I don't think there's much interest in being ceremonial in this race.
I'm glad to hear that.
I think the goal is to tip the ball. And I think it's not just to defeat Lori DeReamer for all of her imperfections. It's to make it clear that whoever the Republicans put up in 2 years better at least try and accommodate us a little bit, just a little bit. That's how third parties have maximized their influence and made a difference, even through this rigged political system we have that no other democracy has, that is so restrictive to ballot access, that is so litigious, and is so gerrymandered to the favor of two major parties. And so the only way we can maximize influence with the current existing system, and without, a patron, a billionaire, we have to exercise that power at the periphery. We have to use the power of principle and the currency of work ethic to hold the two parties honest. And I think that's a pretty noble goal, and I think it's a significant role for our party to play. And I have the feeling that this, we've liberalized our county affiliate policy, and we're hoping that this campaign and our other candidates across the state will create a mushrooming effect of vibrant county affiliates all over our state. And so I think the combination. What's that?
So growth could be another key piece coming out.
Absolutely, it has to be. It has to be. I mean, let's be honest. The role of the party organization, for all those who want to be philosopher kings, is to ensure ballot access and to have resources to assist your candidates. Well, I'm dealing with ballot access right now, and I'm hoping that with some momentum and as more media attention comes on this race, resources will follow. And regardless of resources do come in, or donations, more members, more volunteers, before the election, I think when people see we actually did it, we tipped the ball, we are significant, we are making a difference.
Yeah.
I think we will get more, and this party will grow. But
all right,
the way to do it isn't by. Sorry.
No worries. Speaking of that, guys, if you want to follow what Matt is doing, you can check him out on Twitter if you want to. It's Matt, and it's not Rowe. It's not Rowe.
Wow.
It's Rowe, even though it looks like Rowe from Mike Rowe and the crew over there, but it's Matt Rowe, MattroWeor on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. You can also check out his party at lporegon.org. So if you want to check that, you can. And as always, if you like what we're talking about, please click the like button. I know I bug you all the time. Please click that button that is like. Let me grab some comments if I could. Can I grab some comments, Matt?
Absolutely.
All righty. Joe says, I want to go to Happy Valley. I agree. It does sound cool. Yeah, I mean, when you sound like that's a good place. I think I want to live there. It just sounds. I mean, it could be terrible. I don't know the town at all, but
it's a beautiful town. It's just, can you afford to live there?
There we go. Okay, so you got to pay to be happy. Okay, I get it. Ken says, without competition, you can't have accountability. Controlled opposition isn't real competition. That's why Democrats, Republicans work to try to get libertarians off the ballot. I think that's the key aspect, right? That if they throw libertarians off, they're okay grifting off each other, but sadly, libertarians and other parties like that don't accept the grift. Am I wrong here?
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think the term controlled opposition is perfect for the Republican Party, because for all their griping, for all their howling, for all the grievance and identity politics, what do they actually accomplish? Not much, except for maintaining the status quo.
Yep.
And that's, if anything, I mean, if we read our Murray Rothbard, we know that the status quo always benefits those with power.
Absolutely. So the lunatic libertarian, he's got a bone to pick with us. He says libertarians will never be aggressive enough against their political enemies. And he continues on to say, libertarians should come to understanding in politics. The gloves are always off and there are no rules or principles. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Matt?
I would disagree with the fact that there are no rules or principles. At the same time, we are taking the fight to the Republicans here in the state of Oregon. In our voters pamphlet statement, because we're one of the few states that has a voters pamphlet that's mailed out to every person who gets a ballot, because we do all mail-in in the state of Oregon. And I was going to say that everybody gets a voters pamphlet statement, and the political parties are all given a free voters pamphlet statement during the primary election, even those of us who don't get a taxpayer-funded primary. And in our voters pamphlet statement, it was a real shot across the bow. I wrote most of it. I made sure that everybody else got a look at it. We were operating very quickly, and it called out openly the Warhawks. And never before had we openly called out any Republican ever. in our voters pamphlet statement. It was like generally the general statement of principles, which nobody ever read.
But you bring up a valid point, right? If we're going to be libertarians and be anti-Warhawk, we got to call out all the Warhawks. Doesn't matter what party they're in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if they have a bunch of orange hair on their head,
doesn't matter.
Just a Warhawk's a Warhawk's a Warhawk. And if we're concerned about inflation and the other key issues we preach about, we can't just let our prejudice or dislike for the Democrats be our sole motivation. If we're doing the worse than proposition and using that logic, it's not too long until you're, in the fire, you're out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Agreed. Absolutely. Peter says, Warhawks, Republicans, Democrats are in 3 wars. Well, yes, but hold on. This is the coolest one of all of them. Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize while bombing 8 countries. Now that's impressive. I'm just saying that's got to be a record.
And one of the things, and this was in the news last week, is 2 units of the Oregon National Guard are being sent to Syria and Iraq. And one of the big things of our affiliate and many affiliates, especially with a heavy Mises orientation, is defend the Guard. The National Guard is meant for emergency situations or invasion of the country. Yep. That's about it. And it's completely absurd that we're taking these guys who could be fighting wildfires right now in the state of Oregon. Our state is on fire, and we are sending them to try and steal back oil refineries from the Syrians, and to keep our boot heel on the throat of the Iraqi government. This is an absurdity. This is a complete violation of the law and the intention of what the National Guard's for. And Lori DeReamer, not a peep. The only peep we heard last week was her asking for more billions for big tech, even as they fired people.
100%. We got to reward the bad behavior. All right. Matt, I got to tell you, I'm happy you put this story up because people are talking about this stuff and it's everywhere. Right now, it's all about, the presidential election. But this happens, to your point, everywhere. People are fighting in local areas. They're fighting all the time. And it is important. The faithful friend says, back the Guard, back the Guard. So you got some people on your side for that one, for sure. Absolutely. Let
me give a shout out to our candidate in the 5th, Sonia Fine-Tesh. She's outstanding. I think you interviewed her at the convention. I think you interviewed several of our delegates, and you should have her on at some point. She is an outstanding candidate, and I don't believe this will be it for her. I think she has a very, very strong future, and will hold office someday. Maybe not this office, but she'll hold office someday and be a great representative for our party.
Do you happen to remember what her website and/or Twitter handle is? Either one?
Oh Lordy, I think it's Sonia Agora on X, and I think it's Sonia for Oregon is the website.
There we go. So
Google will get you there. Google will get you there, though.
There we go. I'm gonna have to have her on now because you said that, or else you're gonna be mad at me. So now I gotta have her on. Thanks, Matt. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm happy to have her on. It's all good. We'll make that happen. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please click the like button. Check out what's happening in Oregon. This stuff affects all of us. It may affect you coming up here in the next month, year, whatever. It affects all of us. Ballot access is about democracy. Choice is about democracy. If we want to try to fix something, we've got to have more choices. We've got to make this happen. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Is there anything else you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
Just that I think you hit the nail right on the head. There needs to be third-party solidarity. And one of the positives that's come out of this whole experience is other third-party leaders in Oregon have reached out to me. And I proposed the idea, why don't we create almost like, I hate to use the NATO comparison, but on the issue of ballot access in particular, that we unify and defend each other's key interests for electoral reform. We support each other and work together. And amazingly, it seems like there's a very, very receptive audience in the third-party community in Oregon for that. And I think the major parties might have made a miscalculation here because we're going to come out of this far stronger.
I'll bring up, because you brought it up, here on the East Coast, we do it all the time. I have been in court together with Green Party people all the time, been in the same lawsuits with them, even with the LaRouche Party people here. It doesn't matter what party it is. We're helping them down in North Carolina. Republicans are actually up in the Cornell West. Doesn't matter. You're right. We need to get more people to help each other getting on the ballot, even if you're not going to vote. If you're not going to vote for the guy, doesn't mean he shouldn't be on the ballot for others to vote. We all have to be able to get on the ballot. I appreciate it. So,
thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Good seeing you. Everybody else, Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all